I emailed myself from my Yahoo to my Gmail the StreamYard link so I could copy it on my phone and send it
Mm-hmm.
to you via Discord. Just came in. Ended up having to go to Gmail and send it to my Yahoo in order to finally copy paste.
Not associated with anything we're about to do. Uh, I was on my old Yahoo email, my very first email
Yeah.
account, and I was looking for something that might have gone to like a spam folder,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking through like self-made folder. So I was looking through everything I hadn't looked through in a long time. I found a folder, uh, marked, or I found a folder labeled Fort.
Okay.
And I found the only thing
Tim's
that was
doxing me.
no, I'm just saying that's all that was named.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing in there was an email from you, and it was from I think 2009 to 2010.
Yeah.
We're
all live on YouTube, by the way, so don't say any
No,
address.
no, that's all I'm saying. Is I found it and I read through it and I was like, "What? That's what that was." It was about a script
Ah.
for a sequel.
So we were swapping script stuff.
Yeah. But it was, I found it and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy."
Speaking of, so I had my pipes replaced this week to finally hopefully fix the flooding issue in the basement. And so the guy's like, he saw this all set up. And he's like, so you sit up in front of that when you're recording? And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good looking deal. I said, yeah. He said, do you have up there so people don't dox you? And I said, oh, I'm not so worried about that. I just like that poster. And, besides which, I just want sued for $380 million. So I'm kind of past the point of giving a shit, who knows where I live. And it just kind of like came out nonchalantly. So anyway, he fixes the pipes, and then he calls me yesterday as he's like wrapping up, and he tells me what was going on. He's like, by the way, you mentioned this thing about that. What's the deal with that? Who sued you? And I kind of start telling him the story, and he's like, who sued you? I go, oh, this guy Maddox. He had this book, and he's like, oh no, I've heard about this. I'm like, oh yeah, you know who Maddox is? Like, no, I know the other guy on there. Like, oh, Dick Masterson. Like, yeah, and so I don't know. I didn't clarify what thing he was, which community he was part of, but he knows who Dick Masterson is. So yeah, I was like, what a crazy small world.
Crazy world.
It's only like the second time I've ever been, and not because he didn't even know me, but it's only like the second time. Holy shit! Leave me alone. I am not poor. I went and did a show for my friend at his theater, and they use this app called Homebase for clocking in and clocking out. And apparently with it, you can get paid like the same day, but it's just a payday advance loan. Like you tell them what your pay rate is, and then on your payday, you have to be given the money. And I've told it, no, I don't want that several times. And it just sent me 3 notifications in a row.
Of course.
Probably one for every shift I worked last week. Cause I'm sure like they cut I'm sure they cut the checks this week or something. Fucking useless. Anyway, you ready to hop into it?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to another before and after, except with no before, so it's just the after. This time we are reviewing the 2022 film Prey, the 7th movie in the Predator franchise. And here we go, Tim. Tim, overall, what did you think of Prey?
It was way better than I thought it would be.
Okay.
Consider I had no hope for this movie.
Yeah.
I had no hope for it. I mean, even from like the beginning, even though like, so the director, when they announced like, oh, this director is doing a Predator prequel called Prey, and it's going straight to Hulu. I mean, if I like the director, it could cancel out the direct to Hulu thing. I like Predator, maybe that cancels out it's a prequel thing. You know what I mean? Like you could make an argument, right? But the director is the guy that did 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, so I can only assume that movie sucks ass.
I like it.
love it so much. I like a J.J. Abrams produced thing. No, not a fucking chance that movie's good. Not a fucking chance that movie's good.
Look, I liked it. I had no stake in the game because J.J. Abrams was not directly creatively involved in it.
That's what you think. He put his
it
penis
is
in
what I
someone's
think.
mouth. Yeah.
Sure. Creatively though,
Mm-hmm.
when he entered, there was like a light flare. You know.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. I had no hope for this movie, and it turned out better than that.
So I did not like this movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'm saying you didn't hate it though.
I think the only reason why this movie is being praised is because the last movie was so fucking abominably bad.
Yeah. No, that's part of it. That's part of why I liked it.
The Predator was such a bad movie on so many levels. And then on top of that, this was marketed as like strong whammon wokeness. And they dialed the wokeness back, and it wasn't the Predator levels of retarded. And so people watch this, and all over YouTube, it's like, the Predator, it's actually, or what? No, the Prey, it's better than you think. And I'm like, oh man, I think everyone I look at it in YouTube might be retarded. Because this is not a good movie. This is a bad movie. And the reason, one of the main things I'll tell you about this movie is that it's 139. It's an hour and 39 minutes.
It was too long.
It was the long, and the last 9 minutes of that are credits.
Yeah.
It was the longest 90-minute movie I've ever seen. I thought for sure this movie was 2 hours in.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll watch this, then I'll watch the original. Fucking,
it's slow.
This movie just kept going. Well, here's a big problem with this movie. Let's hop right into pacing.
Sure.
This movie has 3 false starts.
Yes. Yep.
We start with this scene of like Tim, what's the main girl's name?
It starts with an N. It's like, it's not Navi.
It's Nehru.
Nehru. That's
yeah.
Or Naru, maybe.
Yeah. Do you know the names of anyone else in that movie?
No. I one of the guys that gets killed, his name was Itzy, I think.
Bitsy, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Nipsey. It was Nipsey.
It was Nipsey, yeah.
There's no Nipsey here.
So with the movie starts out with her like going hunting on her own, I think.
Yep.
And then she goes back, she ends up back in her village, and she's like, I want to do all these things. She's like making medicines with her mom, and then her brother goes out to hunt for a bobcat, and they do that again.
Yeah.
And then that's a reset. And then she's like, I'm going to go find the Predator in the woods.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a reset even because nothing is yet happening at those points. And that's like the first 30 minutes of the movie.
It is.
And all those scenes exist to do is for people to be like, you can't hunt. You're a girl. Which I didn't think were really necessary.
No.
And we'll do Script Doctor later. Yeah. But what that did is it just drew the movie to a grinding halt. And then towards the end, they're just doing action scene after action scene after action scene. And it becomes exhausting in the opposite direction. We have a scene where we have like back to back to back. The Predator slaughters one group. Then the Predator slaughters another group. Then the girl slaughters a group, and then there's the final showdown. Yeah. And like, I think that's the last 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. And it's just breakneck. And it so is. You're just like ambling along on horseback. Dum, 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 the whole first half of this movie.
And then full gallop.
No, then you get in a rocket car and you're like, like it was like your internet yesterday and then your internet today.
Yeah.
The movie, in that regard, that added to why it felt. I mean, I could not believe I was watching a 90-minute film.
No, it's all backloaded.
Yeah.
And here's how. When I was telling my dad about it earlier, and I said, "Hey, I watched that new Predator movie, and it was better than I thought it would be." I did that thing where someone said like our minds, it's probably not true. Our minds spend like 90% of the time not focusing on the present, and instead of like making up scenarios in our head and all that stuff, right? We all do that, right? So I thought of the scenario where like my parents are in the living room watching about to watch the movie, and be like, "Hey, you already watched it, but do you want to watch it again?" And I would like, I'll wait for like 45 minutes until the scene when they're tied up to the tree, in the trap scene. I'll wait till that,
Yeah,
and then I'll go,
watch that movie. Yeah. Um, I honestly, I don't think I'd watch any. Like, I have no interest in ever seeing The Predator ever again.
Yeah.
I have even less interest in ever seeing this movie again. It was just so poorly paced, and another part of the pacing is that like we follow such a small group for the beginning of the film, and then they introduce us to this huge group of French people.
Yeah.
And like they showed up, and I the first of one of them showed up, and I go, "Oh, we just introduced a bunch of cannon fodder for an action scene."
Yes.
And like you knew it was coming, so that also ruined the pacing for me in that I knew what the next plot beat was going to be.
Yeah.
And that made me nuts. And so yeah, it just became this ordeal.
I think so. Right. I think they went too subtle on that, because the only two things I'm trying to think before the French fur trappers get introduced, which is
40 minutes in the movie.
I think it's after the halfway point.
55 minutes in the movie, maybe.
I think so.
It's pretty late. Yeah.
The only two times they're referenced before that is the dog gets in the trap.
Mm-hmm. And with his tail, no less.
His tail, yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
And then the scene with the buffalo.
Oh, I hate the fucking scene with the buffalo. They do this scene where she walks out in the field and all these fucking buffalo are killed, and she like pulls some herb out of her bag and sets it on the buffalo, and like, so wadi wangi wanga changa bullshit. And it's just like, it's this myth of the noble savage where they used every piece of the buffalo.
Yeah.
They didn't. They were hunting the buffalo to extinction as well. And it was just, and the thing was like they had done I think the dog in the trap. And I'd seen the trailers, so I knew that there were like humans that weren't Indians around.
Yeah. I figured it would be like new settlers.
I thought it was going to be, yeah. I didn't realize the movie was set in 1715. So I thought it was going to be a lot later, and it was going to be like American Army, Union Army troops who were going to be displacing the Native Americans, and it wasn't that. But we see all this buffalo, and we're supposed to, because they keep showing like the predator killing shit.
Yes.
Which did not add to the mystique of the predator at all.
I have a note, and it's one of the first notes I made, and it says too much predator.
Yes, I was thinking exactly the same thing. So yeah, we see these buffalo, and we're supposed to be like, oh my god, the predator slaughtered a field full of buffalo. But then she finds human.
Well, it's not just that it turns out it's. I mean, in that scene, you know it's not the predator. Because they have the hole in the skull, and there's a cigar on the ground. But it, like in the moment, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, but also
especially because she doesn't then immediately go back to the tribe and be like, there's 50, or like not even like someone just slaughtered all of the buffalo over there.
Yeah,
like literally, they're all dead, and that can either be the monster I'm talking about, or a bunch of white folks.
Yeah. No. So on your note about, and I kind of want to switch this into character mode, because the predator is like the only character in this movie. The original film, we don't see the predator. We see the predator flash his eyes. I think maybe we see the like distorted blur vision.
Yep.
But it's not until after the raid on the like Comunista compound.
Yeah.
Up until that point, we see our heroes in heat vision. We see the scorpion get picked up, and we see that it's not a human hand.
Yeah.
But it's not until basically, it's not really until the last act that we're actually start seeing the predator, and we start seeing that distortion as what it is when oh shit, I can't remember his name but the black guy that's all sweaty that's friends with Jesse Ventura, he realizes
Bill Duke, yeah.
Bill Duke knows what it is, and he starts to be able to see it. Like he's now looking for it.
Yes.
That's when we start to really grasp what is out there.
So I'm going to make a wild guess here, and this is I have not read anything, but given the way that it happens in the movie, I'm going to guess that too much Predator in the beginning was studio involvement.
Probably
because both scenes that I'm thinking of where I'm like, we didn't need any of this, both like super CG heavy.
You're talking about the scene where the snake.
That's the second. That's the second.
So
scene.
we keep seeing scenes where we see the predator intervene in a hunt happening to kill the bigger predator.
Yes.
So the first one is a snake hunting like a rodent of some kind.
Yeah.
And then the second one is a wolf hunting a rabbit.
Yep.
And then that sets the stage for the predator to kill the bear that's attacking Nehru, the main girl. And none of those scenes do anything to add the mystique of the predator.
No.
And also we know what the predator is.
Yes.
Like as a character, I don't really think you can do anything more with it.
No.
So it needs to just be a force that exists that's like hurting our characters in a direction. But the other characters in the movie just don't exist. One thing I will say is like of all the talk of diversity and inclusion in this world, there's not a lot of Native American characters in any of this stuff. Like we need to see Asians in movies now because China's a big market. Mm-hmm. We need to see black people in movies because we're kowtowing to them. We need to see women in movies. Not really concerned with Muslims other than not making them terrorists.
Yeah.
And don't really give a shit about Native Americans outside of like, yeah, you guys can have your Reservation Dogs show on FX. And really that's it.
I guess it's only, you're right. It's only just now Marvel is going to do an Echo show.
Yeah. Like Letterkenny, they go to the reservation. They have Native Americans on that show. And I remember I didn't even think anything of it really until I started to think about it. And like, as we pursue these demographics, why is this not one of them? So the fact that they like have this movie starring an Indian tribe, I think is an interesting idea. I don't think it's handled well, but I think part of that is because aside from the main girl, we get like a little bit of development with her having a relationship with her brother.
Her brother, yeah.
And then there are
a little bit
his friends,
his asshole friends
might as well be fucking cardboard cutouts. Like we don't know their names. They're all just like, your sister's stupid.
Yeah.
And the result of that is, so going back to the original film, all the characters in the team have a purpose.
Yes.
So you have like Billy, he's the tracker. You have Hawkins, he's like a talker. Mm-hmm. You have the guy that speaks Spanish, who speaks Spanish, and he's like the demolition guy. Yep. You got Jesse Ventura with the big guns, and you got Bill Duke, who's like mid-sized guns. You've got Carl Weathers, who's the loose man out, so that you can kind of he can have scenes with him and the other characters to learn things about those characters.
And he's also someone to blame.
And he's like this driving force. And then you have like the big strong leader in Arnold. But they all have purpose, and they all have like their little characterizations, and they all stand out. Like you may not remember their character names, but you remember like those scenes. You remember Bill Duke chasing after with all his weapons. Like, I'm gonna get me some. Like it's so great. And the thing about establishing all those characters is that when they start dying, it means something. When Jesse Ventura gets shot through the chest and then Bill Duke grabs up his minigun and just starts mowing down the forest, you completely understand why everybody just hops in and also mows down the forest, because they're like, we've kind of established that camaraderie. And in this one, they don't establish any of that. So when characters start getting killed, it's meaningless.
I have a different view on that.
Okay.
Not entirely different, but maybe just a different way of saying it. So, if you were to describe the protagonist group of the first film, how would you describe them?
they're like an elite unit that works together to go rescue people. Like
Yeah.
they're army hero good guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so they inherently have a pre-established relationship, even if it's their first time meet, even if like this is like they're each from a different like spec ops unit and they're together, they inherently have the militaristic like found family, like we're brothers in this together thing.
Okay.
That's like baseline. They already have established relationship, even if it's their first time meeting each other. Predator 2, what's the protagonist team?
It's just Danny Glover.
Well,
It's like, well, I guess he has his like DEA team, but
yeah,
that
right.
team is not as defined. I think
It's not. But again, they have a baseline like team squad relationship. AVP AVP2. So AVP, they're
they're an expedition team.
Expedition team.
Yeah.
So, but also that movie is less of like it's not as good.
No.
Right. AVP2, it's got like some family stuff.
It's a brother. It's two brothers, his crush, and like a female for the older brother.
Yeah.
And a kid.
But it's also not written well, and
Yeah.
the actors aren't good, and
Yeah.
so like the relationships aren't really there. What about 2018 Predator?
They're all like
I couldn't tell you anything about.
they're all
any
military schizos.
Yeah, and they all hate each other though.
Yes.
They're all antagonistic and hateful towards each other.
Yeah.
So, like the brothers, like you said, the brother sister relationship is the only thing that's even kind of there.
Yeah. There's no squad in this movie.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that in script doctor time because
okay.
I think you could fix this idea into a good
totally
movie.
Totally.
But yeah, and then you have like the French guys that show up and they're basically nothing. There's no motivation for the Predator. So
yeah,
we don't know in the original film, we don't necessarily know what the Predator's motivation is.
Nope.
But it definitely like works on. We have that scene where the girl says like, on the hottest seasons, people disappear. We find them skinned alive with like their skulls taken out. And so the kind of accepted interpretation of that is like they're a hunter that shows up and hunts people.
Yes.
Which is also a complaint I have about this movie because this hunter gets dropped off. Like the original Predator movie, it opens up, a spaceship passes over Earth, a pod gets shot out, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger lands on a beach and Dylan, you sons of bitches, and then they get dropped in the forest. Like it's just bam, bam, bam. Very little to establish that the Predator's dropped off. In this one, we see like ship come down and land, and he walks off the back, and then he cloaks, and it flies up into the sky, and the girl sees that, and she's like, it's a sign, and just like all this fucking nonsense we didn't need. But in all of that, like this is a hunter that's either like a rich guy out on safari, like, oh yeah, on my vacations I go to Earth and hunt the humans in South America, or it's like he's like an elite warrior who wants to challenge himself with the most dangerous.
That was my interpretation, and I think they kind of tried to get it there, but they could have done a much better job of showing, like, so in my interpretation, that's what it is, right? He gets dropped off onto a planet. They're like, okay, here's this new planet. Go kill, like, their apex. And so he's, like, working his way up the ladder of animals it is in this movie. It would have been, like, in, my slightly different version of this movie, where, like, the first thing, you see you snake kill the mouse, and so he's like, oh, that's the apex. He kills the snake. And then
he kills the wolf.
Yeah.
Then he kills the bear.
Yeah.
And then there's no information that says I need to start killing these humans.
No.
Like, we don't see the humans kill anything.
No, that what we needed to have seen was like if not too much script doctor, but like if the other guys, if it was a squad based thing and it was all his friends were the squad and the sister is like has to tag along, if they like even like a younger bear, right? If he sees them take down a bear, working together to take down a bear,
or like, I don't know, bobcat.
Yeah.
because that's all established early in the movie. Like they had the whole thing where they hunt the bobcat. It has nothing to do with anything.
Very little.
It's just to show that like she's not up to snuff to be a hunter, and her brother is.
Yeah, but she had the right idea. That comes into play later.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, so they don't do anything to like give the Predator motivation.
No,
it's the Predator just exists to be in a Predator movie, and then to swap over into exposition. So the front of the movie is real heavy exposition wise with "you're not good at this because you're a girl," and then the French people get introduced just so they can explain what the Predator does, which is hunt the apex of the species.
Yeah,
and I'm like, we all fucking know this. This is the 7th goddamn Predator movie.
He also like it also comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, you didn't stumble. Yeah, it just happens. It's like, again, I think the studio was like, well, people need to understand why the Predator's doing what it's Predator 7, you fucking moron. Unless you're like a completely disconnected weirdo, you're not going to be clipping through shit on Hulu and go, oh, I wonder what Prey is. I want to watch a movie with a strong female character. Why is this invisible monster chasing her? I don't understand. Yeah, it's just noise. It's just
I was surprised when it happened.
I was too. I was like, why the fuck are you telling me this? Exposition exists.
And how do you know it? How do you know this?
Another great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking obnoxious. Also, another piece of exposition that I hated. Did you catch the pistol?
Yeah.
Do you know where we've seen that pistol before?
Predator 2.
Yeah. So the guy's like, I'll give you this pistol in that scene when he gives her the pistol. And I thought to myself, that's the fucking pistol that Predator gives Dana Glover in fucking Predator 2. Yeah. I'm going to be pissed. And then sure enough, she hands it to the guy and it's got the name on there.
Close up on the name. Yeah.
And the year. And I was like, son of a bitch. And I looked it up. Yep, it's the same gun. So apparently, somehow, like that is their post-credit tease to be like, oh,
it is.
The Predator's got to come get this gun to tie into Predator 2. It's like, we didn't need that. It absolutely did not need that in this film. That was just a little thing. It was a little bit in that movie for them to go like, the Predators have been coming here for a long time.
Yeah.
Neat. And now it's like the Star Trek books I read. The Star Trek books I read, they take like a little thing that's in an episode of the show and then spin it into a much bigger thing and tie it into something else. So like try and make this intricate web. And it's interesting, but sometimes
you know what I would go ahead.
Shit just needs to be in one episode and it's fine.
Sure. You know what I think would have been smarter and to still have the connection is just to have that guy have that name.
Yeah.
The French name, have that guy have that be the guy. Don't do the close up of that pistol where it has his nameplate on it, right? But just have him be named Francis or whatever it is.
Except that the Predator in this movie gets killed, spoiler alert. So like the Predator would have to get away for that to make sense. That's why it doesn't make any sense.
Did you watch the whole end? Did you watch all the end credits?
No.
Okay. So
where they showed the animation?
Well, yeah, like the caveman style drawings.
Yeah,
it's just the story of the movie.
Yeah.
But there's an extra one at the end.
Oh.
With another Predator ship coming down in the sky.
For Prey 2.
Yeah. It's just
that's
that, I
what
mean,
it's be called.
Yeah.
Let's get into design. What do you think of the design of the Predator?
I didn't like him without his bone helmet.
I hated it too, and it drives me nuts because, like, the original Predator is the best the Predator's ever looked.
Yes.
Like they made him a little more detailed in the second one, and it's just like, it's just not as good.
Yeah.
And then I think it's in Predators they added the like weird mutant bug-headed one, and the other problem with it is. I think the second one might still be the same stuntman, but in the original one, they got like a 7'9" stuntman or something to be the Predator. And then ever since then, they've just gotten like 6 foot something guys.
Yeah.
So they always seem like stocky. They got like this dancer guy who's like, I mean, he was, I'm sure fit, but he wasn't like buff. And they switched to getting
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, they switched to getting guys like Kane Hodder, who were like squat and buff and looks
Huge.
great as Jason, but doesn't really have the same thing. And then as they started putting more and more electronics in the head to make them like emotes when they don't have the helmet on, the
It
head
just got bulkier and bulkier.
Yeah, so in Predators they have those like they're like super predators that have big, ugly, bulbous heads that look like a pod landed on them, and they're not scary.
No.
And then they added a new species in the Predator, and now we have a new like ostensibly different species
precursor.
Yeah, because he doesn't look anything like the one in the original film.
No, he's got like the wide set eyes and a different kind of mouth. He looks so much cooler with his bone helmet on.
Yes, he looks way more intimidating with the bone helmet. I also hate that she rips one of his mandibles off. She rips one of his mandibles off and I think stabs him in the eye with it. That would be, to me, evolutionarily speaking, that would be like you ripping my finger off.
Yeah.
Like you can't rip my finger off with just your... If it was that fragile, how would it assist in getting food? But you have to like think about the design of a creature and how does its biological functions work. And the mandibles are obviously like, it's some way for him to like eat a bug or something.
Yeah.
And that was like grab it and yank it and then push it into the mouth in a way that an early evolution of the Predator didn't have arms. And then they got arms.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what but so if that's that brittle, that's not going to be able to handle getting food into the mouth.
Yeah.
They're also they click their teeth together. That's the sound the Predator makes. That and he doesn't do that. Like we never hear that. Well, I think we hear that sound a couple of times in the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't care for the design of the Predator. None of the weapons seemed that interesting.
So I did like the fake out with the first time you get faked out with the lasers.
I hate okay. Yeah, sure.
Where they're
separate.
Not that they're separate, but that they were like the darts instead of a plasma
cannon. Yeah.
And I thought his spear thing was kind of cool. His 2-part spear thing.
Oh, that he breaks in half. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a spear on one end and a club.
We never got
to
see it.
That's the thing. We don't really get to see it. And he's got like throwing knives that she uses against him once, or she has one eventually.
She uses it against the one Frenchman that looks like Fred Flintstone from Viva Rock Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing that I don't like about the fake out with the darts is that the first time we get the darts, he fires 3 darts in quick succession and they kill the one guy fucking dead.
Yeah.
And then the next time he uses it, it's like counting down dart fires. And it fires 3 darts for fucking no reason. And that's how she gets her plan at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was stupid. What I really hated though in this movie was the design of her Kratos axe. That was the single dumbest part of the movie. And the reason why is because she comes up with it on her own. It's like 30 minutes into this movie or something.
Yeah.
And she's trying to kill rabbits and sucks at it, which is, I guess, supposed to be her character arc, is that she gets better as a hunter, even though the whole movie is her saying that she can be a hunter and then sucking. And then she's like, what if I tied a rope to this axe and used it like a yo-yo to like kill people? And that only exists to establish that there's a bog. And that's how she has to have that to get out of the bog. So that's why she invents it so early. Now, if at some point she saw the Predator with a weapon that like came back to it, much like the super boomerang disc that Predator has in Predator 2, that would be a thing. That's an arc, right? Character gets new information, applies it to her own technology.
Or like when she's training early before that, right? She's doing a lot of bullseyes, right? Imagine her like throwing that hatchet at a tree and missing it, and it goes like just flying into the forest, and she goes, and I gotta walk over there and pick it up, right?
Or with her brother, like she's throwing axes, and he's like, yeah, you're pretty good at that. And she's like, yeah, it'd be better if I have to walk all the way over there to get it.
Yeah.
Then
it
she's
can
like,
be something
wait
pretty
a
simple.
minute, yeah, but it needs to be like established.
Yes.
Anyway,
Which
I hate that weapon in the movie. It's stupid. It's like the rope.
She doesn't use it very often.
She uses it only a couple of times,
Yeah.
and the rope is like Kratos' chains in God of War.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of whatever length is.
There was a bit of God of War in this movie.
Yeah.
He's got the shield.
Yeah.
That's straight out of God of War.
I also hate that. So in the original Predator, the Predator is crushed by the log that's part of Arnold's snare.
Yeah.
And he's bleeding out. And his last act of defiance, he sets off his self-destruct to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
In Predator 2, the Predator goes to set his self-destruct because he knows he's beaten. And Danny Glover cuts his arm off through his gauntlet, thus destroying his self-destruct mechanism. So the Predator is then forced to retreat back to his ship to get away.
Yeah.
That was fair. But then in AVP, the Predator takes his gauntlet off, sets it to explode to blow up the alien colony, and they run away.
Yeah.
Thus defeating the purpose of the self-destruct. The self-destruct is the final mechanism you're going to give up. And in this movie, they do it again. He's in the middle of a fight, and the Predator takes his gauntlet off, sets it to self-destruct, and then runs away.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking that's how he kills a bunch of those guys. Like, don't do that. That's not the way the Predator. But if the Predator was like cornered by the girl and set it off, and people would be like, that's just like the ending of the original movie. I can't have that either.
Yeah.
But we want to see the explosion. We want to see the like precursor to the nuke explosion. So let's fucking put that in the film. I guess we can hop into plot. So the plot of this movie, and I complain about this a lot. And I finally know how to articulate the difference between these things.
Okay.
I always complain about a movie where things happen versus a movie where like there's a plot.
Yeah.
And to me, this is a movie where things happen.
Yeah.
And I can now tell you how to tell a movie where things happen versus a movie that has a plot. And it is, you start at the end, and whatever the end thing is, you describe what happened before it. And if you can describe it by saying, because blank,
okay,
that's a movie with plot.
Yeah,
So if I'm going to use Star Wars as an example, the original A New Hope.
Yeah.
Because it's a very straightforward plot. So Luke and Han and Chewie get a Medal of Honor for destroying the Death Star because they destroyed the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Death Star was approaching the planet the Rebel base was on. Because the Imperials got the information by tracking the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Millennium Falcon left the Death Star with Princess Leia.
Mm-hmm.
Because they flew to the Death Star inadvertently because that's where they were trying to get to Alderaan.
Mm-hmm.
Because Obi-Wan Kenobi hired the Millennium Falcon to go to Alderaan because he got a message from Princess Leia saying they needed hope because
she had the plans
that she had gotten. And you can go all the way back. Now, a good movie, you could go past the beginning of the movie with those becauses and understand it. Versus this movie, you start at the end. The girl kills the Predator because the Predator was trying to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Why was the Predator trying to kill her? Because he's the Predator.
Yeah.
You just failed the movie. Okay, so then before that, before he was trying to kill her, he killed her brother because he's the Predator.
Yeah.
And okay, before that, he killed all those Frenchmen because he's the Predator. And before that, he killed the Indian boys because he's the Predator. And like he just, there's none of those things are causing the next thing to happen.
Yeah,
it's just a series of events that happen, and so that's the movie. Like it's 45 minutes of boring nonsense with her wandering through the woods, and then right, and then the bear is there so that the plot can happen. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much up until the point of the bear. That's where the movie should start. And that's the plot of the movie. Like they're looking for the Predator and the Predator is hunting. And that's the plot. There's not one. It's just a movie that exists for the sake of a movie. And so I want to jump into Script Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I didn't like about the movie is that we have 3 Predator reveals in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So We have the predator reveal when it kills the bear and holds the bear up above itself, and blood pours down on it, thus revealing that
it's cool. It's cool.
It's cool, and you're like, oh, that's fucking good ass reveal of the predator. And then not 5 minutes later, the predator gets like shot with an arrow, so its cloak mostly drops, but not all the way, so it can fight the Indian warriors. Slaughters them in like 3 minutes, because you're fighting an invisible enemy. And then 5 minutes later, there's just like a dusty storm, and so the predator becomes fully visible because that's a really cool action sequence. The predator slaughtering like 500 French.
It is. That's the best part.
It's the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
Like that should just be a short film.
Yeah.
And so if I were going to script doctor this, the movie would not star the girl.
Okay.
The girl can be the final girl.
Okay.
But the movie, our heroes are the team of Indian warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So she is part of this group team of Indian warriors. They maybe deride her because she's a girl.
Yeah.
But they're all heroes.
Yeah.
They all have names.
Mm-hmm.
They all have characterizations.
Yeah.
And they all like exist in the world. This little band of warriors is chasing a bear that attacked their village.
Yeah.
And they want to go get it. While they're running through the woods.
Can I add because I mean my script doctor is the same thing.
Okay.
So far, it was a thing that happened in the movie that I was like, oh, I guess by the end it made sense, kind of, but like they're all also because like they can be like friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to have like interpersonal conflict, whoever gets the killing blow on the bear is going to be the next war chief. Great detail. Because the bear killed the war chief. So they need a new leader. Or injured him so much that he can't.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to service the tribe. Great addition, Tim. So they're like, we open with them just stalking the bear. We learn this over the course of their discussion. And then, oh no, a big bobcat attacks and it takes down Billy. Not Billy. He's all bleeding and stuff. And she's like, it's okay, I know medicine. And she like gives him some stuff and patches him up. And he's like able to keep fighting. And so now this guy, he's got like a big cat scratch, and she was like gonna kill the bobcat, but then her brother killed it.
Yep.
And she's like, you don't have to protect me. And he's like, well, technically speaking, you're the only one of us that knows how to do the medicine stuff. So you're more important than everybody else. Like, I know you're a good hunter. Like, I'm your big brother. I'm protective. I know you're a good hunter. We should, but if there's a risk between you and someone else getting mauled, I'd rather it be someone else because like you can heal them.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're just no protective big brother. And like, there's kind of a rivalry there, but also like a love. And then when the brother dies at the end, you're like, oh, I'm sad.
Yep. They tried to put that in the movie.
They just put it there at the end though. They just put it there when he's like, I love you, sister. You're good at everything.
Yeah.
Because she's also too good at everything.
Yes.
It's also annoying. So they're hunting the bear. They're like slowly stalking it. And we don't even see the predator.
No, of course not.
We don't see the predator hunting other shit. We don't see nothing.
You can see dead stuff.
They find the bodies of stuff that's all fucked up, and they're like, what the fuck is doing this shit? This is fucking weird.
This is a scary bear.
Yeah. So then they're close to the river, and they see the bear. It's down there by the river.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like starting to make a move towards the bear. And they're like, all right, we're all going to spread out down this hill. And the girl's like going to get the bear, and she like loses her footing and falls through like some brush and ends up down on the riverbank where she's not supposed to be. And we see all the other guys, and they're like, oh shit. And so they have to like scramble. They're trying to get down the bank. The bear's going after her. She goes in the beaver dam exactly like it is in the movie. And the predator saves her, and she just sees this like shapeless form kick the shit out of this bear.
can I add something?
Go ahead.
I love where it is so far, but previous to that, right? It's been a multi-day hunt.
Yes.
At night, they make camp. One of them, who isn't the girl,
Disappears.
no, tells the story of what they reference it in the movie, right? That she called the predator like a monster from a children's from like a children's story thing.
Yeah.
And because most of the people watching the movie are not Comanche, the character, the one of the other Comanche Indians had to respond with, "Oh, that's a character from a children's story,"
Yeah.
to explain it to us white people.
Yeah.
They like in this version, you can just tell the story at night at the camp.
Yeah. So
Good. So Predator saves her.
Yeah, it kills the bear. The bear gets like dragged off. The War Pig tribe got kids all get down there. The bear's gone. They're like, what happened to the bear? They see the blood everywhere. Everything's destroyed. And she's like, something took it. Something big. Yeah. I couldn't see it. It was like this deal. And they're like, oh, it's the Washamingo, whatever the fucking name of the thing was. And she's like, no, I'm serious. And so then they find the buffalo.
Okay.
They're following the way the bear went, and they find all the buffalo, and they're like, it wasn't a monster, it was one of these white men. And then they find the bear with the head cut off and everything. And then they run into the Frenchmen, and the Frenchmen capture the Indian braves. Why? Because they've been having men go missing out of their camp every night for the last week, and they think the fucking Indians are doing it. And the Indians are like, no, it's not us. It's the Washamingo. It's like there's something out there that's hunting us. And they're like, "Now we'll find out." And like, we have this plan. We've built this deal, and you guys are gonna be the bait. And then we get the scene where the predator like fucking slaughters everything, and all their technological power is undone. And the Indian kids get loose, and they kill their fair share of Frenchmen on their way out of the camp. So now the predator's like, oh, those guys killed these dudes. Those people must be the apex predators. And it starts stalking them. And so they're trying to get back to their village to give them a warning about a monster that's killing people and the Frenchmen. And they're slowly getting picked off through the woods, much like the end of Predator. And now something happens to the Predator where its cloak is actually, in my version, the Predator wouldn't have invisibility cloak. It would be like using paint and shit to camouflage itself until it attacks. Okay. So we're going to go even less at technologically advanced than what they have.
Sure.
It's stalking them. It's taking them out like one by one in like honor-based combat. And then we get down to like just the brother and sister. And he's like, you have to like get back to the tribe. You have to warn them, like they need to move. All this shit's going to happen. And he like stalls. He like pushes her into the river to get, so she'll get away. And he stays and fights the predator. And you can do the thing where somehow they learn of the flower. I like the flower, like masking their cloak. Although I don't think you need it, because I also wouldn't have I'm tired of seeing the predator seeing in thermal vision.
So am I, but have we ever seen have we ever seen through the predator's eyes without?
And at the very end
technology,
of Predator, it's all just like a red and very low highlight.
Yeah. If you could do the same thing in his own,
and you find a way to camouflage in that, I'm all for it.
The thing I was going to say was, what I didn't like was that if you like the flowers thing makes sense if you've never seen Predator.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense is that they double back on it with the mud bog.
So yeah, and they even have like the root clump like that, and you can even have the scene where she gets trapped in the mud bog, and and instead of having her fancy axe, like the team has to work together to get her out, and then she goes back to that point to trap the predator and kill it. Like that's a great ending. That's a great play on the ending of the original film. But yeah, essentially, she gets away back downriver, close to their village, but then she like knows it's still coming, and she decides to like make a final stand, and she uses that bog to as her like choke point, and she
Mm-hmm.
sets up because she sets up traps and everything, and maybe she finds a Frenchman out there, and because I like that where she uses the Frenchman to trick the predator into
Yeah,
coming.
that was pretty
Like
good.
maybe she does all that again. Maybe one of the Frenchmen kills one of her friends, and she's like, "You killed my, my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to fucking bleed you to death." So she sets all that stuff up to lure the predator in, and then kills it in the bog, and then she like gets back to her village. She's like, "We gotta go." And no gun and no tie into Predator 2.
Yeah.
And there's your film. And there's a movie that's, about yeah, in some respects you're remaking the original film with like a different culture, but to me it fucking cohesively flows together a lot more. You can work that story backwards and say, okay, because of these things where we do this thing. Like why does she have the axe on a string? Because she didn't like picking up her axe. But she just does that thing. There's no exposition that tells us she's going to do it. She just thinks to do it.
So one of the main problems I had with the first half of the movie, I'll say, it was too talky.
Yeah.
I mean, I said the thing earlier about the monster and the story, like, it was just too much of the lines were like, okay, this is clearly exposition.
How do you know about the orange flower stuff? Yeah. Oh, because you taught me to be a medicine lady, but I also want to be a hunter. Which I wonder if that's going to be important.
Doesn't make sense because like that, like right? Because like if you think about something your dad taught you how to do, like work on a car, right? And
how'd you know to change the alternator?
Right, exactly.
Right. You retarded?
Yeah. So that didn't make sense.
Car won't start. I checked the battery. How'd you think to check the battery?
Yeah. So that kind of goes hand in hand with a couple of things. One being that I think maybe the most positive thing I have to say about this movie, other than that really good fight scene, is that this movie looks amazing. Cinematography wise.
Oh, it is shot well, yes.
It's shot very. That's what I meant. It's visually amazing looking.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like the girl, for what little she has to do, acts very well. It's shot well. The CG's not great.
Yeah.
But it's all in service of a mediocre script. At best, mediocre script.
Yeah. So, and I also like that it didn't look super. It didn't look Hollywood.
It didn't look Hollywood, but it also didn't look like we shot in the woods because we're making a sci-fi film.
Sure.
It was like a good medium.
It was a good medium. But so it kind of looked almost indie. But if this was that version of the movie, I think they half-assed it by putting it in English.
Yeah, apparently there's a Comanche dub version of the film.
There is a Comanche dub. It's a dub, though.
Yeah, but they chose words that make it look like they're saying the right words.
I guess. So to put it all together, right? It looks a little like not super Hollywood to me, right? It looks a little indie, but it's also, like I said, I found it too talky and too exposition-y. Mm-hmm. So you cut a bunch of that out that you don't need. And then you can have it in Comanche, where like you're telling the story through the action and the visuals anyways, so it doesn't even matter that it's in a different language.
Yeah, I can see that, because I did find it confusing when the Frenchman like walks up and he's like, "Please help me," and suddenly they're like talking the same language. It didn't register to me that he was speaking. He was supposed to be speaking Comanche.
Yeah.
I really felt like, they needed to do the thing where...
Wait, but he wasn't speaking Comanche. He was speaking English.
Yeah,
but I know.
I think we were supposed to interpret that stuff spoken in English was Comanche. And
no, I don't think so. At least in that scene, she was speaking English.
Well, so was he.
Yes.
Yeah, which was the French accent. But earlier, they were all speaking French. Like, to me, you could do a scene like that, You could do the movie in English, and
That's because they have the
like
French in the movie.
Yeah, you establish in Comanche, and then you like transition to English, and then when you bring the other guys back, when the Frenchmen are there, it's French and Comanche, with only the Comanche being dubbed or being subtitled.
Okay.
So that we understand that the Indians don't understand what these fucking guys are saying.
Well,
so
that was like I barely speak any. Well, I don't speak French. I can understand a little bit out of context.
Omelette du fromage.
Yeah. But I didn't understand 99% of what they were saying during the movie.
Yeah.
But I still got like the context of everything.
Of course. I mean, Wall-E. The first 45 minutes of Wall-E, there's no dialogue.
No dialogue.
They tell a beautiful story in it. And then they introduce all the fucking fat people and the live action people, and the movie goes to shit.
Yeah.
I want a robots only cut of that movie where they fucking edit Fred Ward's stupid face out of Wall-E.
So here's another thing that I really liked about the movie in the beginning was that, so in the beginning, there was no day for night bullshit. There were night scenes in the movie.
Yeah, lit by fucking torches. I agree.
And it looked awesome until they got to the Bobcat.
The Bobcat, and then they're like, now
it's all dark blue.
At one point,
clearly day for night.
Yeah, at one point they're
and I was like, come on.
I know exactly what you're talking about because he has them all put out their torches like, we don't need these. It's now day for night photography, and I was like, God damn it,
man! How cool would it have been like lit by the moon, lit by the moon, like a lion attack at night.
Just
the
like
glint of the eyes of the lion.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, that was a huge loss. Or don't set that scene at night.
Yeah, or that. Yeah.
Yeah, when they're like walking through the woods and they're all lit by the torches, and they're like, "You guys take the guy back to the camp." I was like, "You don't know? I never fucking see this in movies anymore."
Yeah.
Fucking real, real dark. I only see their faces barely. This is great. And then they just threw it all away. Yeah, and you're again, like you said, probably studio note. We can't have a scene lit by torches.
Yeah, I bet they say. I'm gonna guess they filmed the night scenes earlier and first, right? And then they're like, oh, we don't have the budget for this or whatever.
Yeah, I understand why it's being praised because it was not as bad as it could have been. But this is not a good movie. Like,
it's not a bad movie.
Yeah, it's the worst kind of movie. It's mediocre. It's a movie with nothing to say. That's just about thing. I mean, you might as well fucking watch paint dry.
Man.
Watch paint dry and set a timer on a firework.
Because here's my my reasoning. 2018 Predator. Can you rewrite that into a good movie?
No.
Without completely overhauling it.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I can see where this could have gone.
Yeah, with like another script rewrite.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder if this movie had a lot of girl power shit in it. And then they were like, "Oh, this message shit is not going well," and they cut it way down, and that's why it's kind of a 90-minute mess.
Yeah,
because I also when they kill off all the Comanche Indian guys, they kill that whole group off in like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are fucking brutal.
Oh yeah.
And they really don't earn anything to get such a brutal murder.
No, they're just there.
Yeah, that's one.
They beat her up, right?
The one guy does.
Yeah, the one guy beats her up, but
they kind of like stand by.
Which
he gets the quick, clean death. One dude, they run out to the tall grass.
Yes,
and then she keeps running. The one dude gets literally just like fucking blasted out into a huge spray of blood.
Yeah.
And I watched that and I was like, fucking Christ. But then sometimes they wouldn't show other deaths. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That whole scene was shot terribly. I had no idea what was going on because they have the Predator being half invisible for no fucking
Yep.
reason. Which is again why I say like wipe out the French guys and then hunt the Indians. Like make those guys our heroes.
Yeah.
But they're not, and so because like I didn't even think about it until you pointed out all of the teams in the original movies. Like Predator is really a franchise where a team goes and
Yeah,
and
it's always about a team until it's not. Even like Predators, right? They
Yeah.
form a little squad.
a little unit, yeah. And so it's also when you think about this movie and you think about it as a horror film because
I don't.
it's Predator is a horror film.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. So think
This
about
is not.
think about if this is supposed to be a horror film. Now, in a horror film, you're gonna kill off everyone except your like final girl. Like
Okay.
that's your trope, right?
Yeah.
And you have kind of two kinds of deaths. You have the deaths that happen to I guess three kinds of deaths. You have the deaths that happen to your like wacky character, and they're usually quick and clean.
Okay.
Then you have your deaths that happen to like your other girls, and sometimes those get to being the edge of brutal.
Okay.
And then you have the death that happens to
A hero.
your like cheating boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
So you have your final girl, she's there with like Dan. She walks in the bedroom with Dan's fucking Sally. And then Sally gets murdered in a verging on brutal, and then Dan is like, we gotta stand against Jason, and Dan gets like his head smashed into a fucking with a pole just into mush, and you're like, fuck you, Dan, you fucking earned that shit.
Yeah.
When someone gets turned into a puddle of red mist in the middle of a field, that's fucking what happens to Dan.
Yeah.
That's not what happens to the other member of the another member of the squad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like think about the kills in the original Predator. They're all pretty like quick and mostly painless. Jesse Ventura gets shot through the chest. Hawkins gets fucking slashed with the Vega claws as he's chasing down the girl. Bill Duke gets shot straight through the head.
Straight through the head.
Carl Weathers gets his arm cut off, and then he's
that's the best death. It's the best death in the movie.
Best death in the movie. The Mac, I think, is the guy that gets shot with the plasma cannon next to Arnold before he slides into the river. Like they're all
Billy gets his spine is the one that gets his spine ripped out.
Billy earns the right of Billy gets killed off screen, but he gets his spine ripped out. But Billy earns that death by standing toe to toe. That's why the Predator takes his skull and his spine.
Yeah, and he's the one that he's the sacrifice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like though everyone in those movies deserve it. I mean, even when you go into 2, like we see the Predator show mercy with the one lady because she has a baby in her. This Predator seems to have no rules.
No.
In that it just kind of attacks everyone. Like it doesn't attack her because she doesn't have an axe at one point. But yeah, I don't know. It was just I think that everyone's giving this a pass because the last movie was so bad, and because this was advertised on the heels of we need strong female character and we made it a Comanche for representation, and then either that was not the case, either the marketing department was like, oh, it's got a girl in it and the Native Americans, let's fucking amp that shit up to 11. We're gonna get all the wokesters. Or that was in the movie and they were like, oh no, DC's canceling Batgirl. not that I think that predicated, because this movie was like already in the can when that happened, but those types of conversations were starting to happen in studios, and they were like, we gotta fucking bring that shit down to a minimum. And so there might be like a 2.5 hour cut of this movie,
maybe.
And then they went through and they're like, we gotta leave a little bit of it because otherwise the movie doesn't make any sense. And so they like fucking trimmed it down. They added the shit in with the Predator hunting the CG monsters because there's no humans in any of those. Those were all created in a computer. The snake thing, the wolf thing, all in a computer.
I think some of the wolf looked real to me. some of it
There were a
on
couple of
some
shots
shots.
of the wolf running around.
But
Yeah,
that was one of my other notes was that the terrible CG animals. It's not only were they terrible CG animals, is specifically the mouse and snake scene was also in a scene that I thought was not needed.
It wasn't. The scene where they find the carcass and she's like,
That's
"What
cool.
did this?"
Yeah,
That's a great scene. That's a great suspense building moment.
yes,
Where
that's
especially if you had like more things, like you could have, the snake and then the wolf and then the bobcat maybe, and they keep finding them, and they're like, "There's something else out here."
yeah.
And maybe that night they're like, "Oh, we should talk about Baba Yaga. It's the thing that steals the skins from our whatever."
But then you can throw in also, them either knowing or hearing that there might be fur trappers around.
And they're like, "Oh, it's probably just the white man."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great marriage of those two things. So one of my last notes was this movie lacks so much tension.
Yes.
In the script doctored version, like you open on the bear, if you open on that bear attack, that's immediate like danger and like horror, and then you're going to like the war chief is dead or injured, a bunch of young kids, because presumably like the guys who should be like the warriors and soldiers have been killed in a raid or
fighting against the trappers. Then you build like even more distrust between those two groups. So when they get thrust together, you're going like, "Oh,
yes, right,
you're stealing our men. You killed our men. We hate you." And
and so you've got like a bunch of like kids who are probably good at hunting but way too young to be going
after the big
what their fathers should be doing. Like that's already, and and then you add the girl having to come along. I mean, like that's already like a bunch of tension that this movie did not have.
Yeah. And like in the original, we don't see that predator until we've kind of established.
Yeah.
Well, one in those early scenes, especially the scene where they raid that camp, we established like these guys are badasses. These guys blew through an entire encampment of communistas in 5 minutes and just fucking wiped them out.
Yep.
They're elite special forces badasses. So then when you 10 minutes later reduce them to a screaming mess firing wildly into the jungle, you start to go like, "Oh, this is something that's stronger," because it takes out Hawkins for its first victim, and he's obviously the one you're looking at. He's like, he's kind of shrimpy.
The guy with the glasses cutting jokes. He's gonna be the first one gone.
Yeah, not either of the black guys. They're like the fourth and third to last to die. Yeah. I think this could have been salvaged. I just don't think they did it, which is a shame, because I love the Predator. I love Predator. I love Predator 2 too.
Predator 2 is the second best Predator movie.
Oh, so we also talked about doing a ranking, Tim. Do you want to start as your worst Predator movie and we'll work our way down?
2018.
The Predator is absolutely the worst Predator movie.
Yeah.
So what's your number 2 worst?
AVP.
Really?
The first one.
The first one.
I haven't seen it in a while. I've seen 2 more recently.
Okay. My number 2 worst one is Prey.
Yeah.
What's your number 3 worst one?
AVP 2.
Okay.
Those like I do not like either of those movies. They're both terrible schlock.
I will agree with you. AVP 2 is also my third to worst one because it's dark, it's a mess, it's kind of about nothing.
Yeah.
It's a movie where things happen.
But I think two has like that hospital scene at the end is like better than any of the stuff in 1, I think. Because there's because of the practicality of it. There's some decent kills in there.
That's fair. What I don't like about that one, and it's more on the alien side, is that suddenly like these aliens the alien is like laying eggs inside of pregnant women, which then turn their babies into aliens, just so they can get like a shitload of aliens out into the film to wipe out this town. And, like the whole thing is stupid.
Sure, it's it's real done. That's why it's on the bottom half of the list.
But I think it's worse than the first AVP. Because
Right.
also I'll say about the original Alien versus Predator was I was super hyped for that movie.
So was I.
I was super hyped. So
Yeah.
it'll always have a soft spot because of that. So what is your next worst Predator movie? Prey. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm putting AVP.
Okay.
And then I assume we're going to have the same order from here on out, right?
Yeah.
Predators.
Uh-huh.
Predator 2.
Yeah.
Batman Dead End.
Yes.
And then Predator.
Oh, so you mentioned something during the episode. So you mentioned that like you watched something and then you fell asleep and kept on auto replaying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Maybe that's not what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Did Hulu autoplay something worse?
No, I'm thinking of so I was thinking of something I thought was related to Batman Dead End because I know there's something in my mind that is related to Batman Dead End.
I think those same guys did another thing.
They did.
And I don't remember
and it's a movie called Hunter Prey.
That's right.
That's why I remember that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a different guy who did a different fan movie kind of thing.
Yeah, so Dead End was a short film. I don't want to say it's like 10 or 15 minutes, but it's Batman and he's in like classic Batman outfit, you know, the spandex with the black underwear on the outside and the black bat with no yellow around it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's chasing down the Joker outside of Arkham and he gets him cornered and then the Joker gets fucking yanked up into the sky, I think by a Predator. So then Batman fights Predator for a minute. He ends up killing the Predator and then a bunch of aliens show up. And then that's the end of the spoiler alert. Sorry, but it is awesome.
Back in the day, I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time.
I haven't watched it in a long time either, but I just remember thinking that it was awesome because I read the Batman versus Predator comics, and I loved them as a kid. I got in trouble in school for the in daycare because I was reading a comic. I'm reading this Alien versus Predator comic, right? Predator, an R-rated film, and a Batman comic. I'm reading this comic, and these kids like keep asking me to read it to them. I'm like, no, this is for mature audiences only. They go tell the teacher. The teacher's like, you need to read that to them. I'm like, it's not. This is not a comic for children. I'm in the first grade, by the way.
Yeah.
So I read it to him, and at one point in there, Alfred curses. He says, "Damn."
Mm-hmm.
So then one of those little fucking nigglets goes up to the teacher and tells her that I was cursing. I'm like, I read the fucking comic that you told me to read to them that I didn't want to fucking read to him. Yeah. And I had to write sentences about how I will not curse. Fucking bitch.
So, so what I was thinking of, the fan film I was thinking of was Dirty Laundry.
Oh, with Punisher. Yeah.
Punisher. So the guy that did Punisher Dirty Laundry also did a Venom one, and he did a Power Rangers one.
Was that the one where Zach is the last one and he's like in the dystopian future? Ass? Yeah, that was cool.
And the thing he did for Netflix was called The Guardians of Justice.
I think that's the thing that auto played on fucking Netflix.
Yeah, it's like a weird animated, but also there's some live action like DC ripoff thing.
Yeah. Sounds like what it was. Yeah. So anyway, well, Tim, would you recommend Prey?
It's better than the last one. I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah.
It's not Predator, you know.
Or Predator 2.
Or Predator 2.
Or Predators.
I put Predators as third on that list.
Uh-huh.
But
Which one would you rather watch again?
Right now?
Yeah.
The new one.
You'd rather watch that than Predators?
I have no love for Predators.
Oh my God.
I do not like that movie.
He's got an AA-12. Lawrence Fishburne is in it.
Yeah, I love Lawrence Fishburne. He's cool.
Yeah.
The rest of the people in that movie, not so much.
I love that movie. I think it's great. I almost like it more than Predator 2.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I fucking love the Predator franchise.
So do I.
But so my answer is, with would I recommend this movie? Fuck no. Don't watch this movie. Don't watch this movie on accident. Don't let it autoplay. This movie's shit. It's 90 minutes of fucking pure boredom. It just goes on and on and on. It has nothing to say. It's not a good action film. It's not a good horror film. It doesn't have
I will give you that.
It doesn't have a good message. It is tries to tie itself in with the existing franchise for no fucking reason.
It's pulled in too many directions.
Yeah, it needs easily, like, take our outline, go back in time, take our outline that we just wrote for this movie, and give that a fucking script treatment, and then revise it 2 more times, and you'll have a movie that might be watchable. Because, yeah, I mean, I was rewriting it as I was watching it, and then,
so was I.
And then this morning, as I was thinking about it, that's when I thought of the, if your movie can't be explained by saying what the end because of the next thing, because of the next thing, it's a movie where things like Grandma's Boy. Grandma's Boy, you can explain that plot with because
it's a good example.
But you cannot explain Beer Fest with becauses.
Yeah.
They win Beer Fest. Why? Because they twisted the boot. Why? Because that's how you get the bubble out of the boot.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did they have to go to it? Because the movie isn't the script.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, well, that's it. That's a review of Prey. Don't go out and see it. Go watch the 1987 film Predator starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Fucking high cinema. Well, I watched that movie so many times as a kid. I wish we had a brain eraser that we could I would love to wipe my memory
for the first time again.
Of ever seeing Predator and watch that movie again for the first time.
Yeah.
That and Back to the Future. There's a bunch of movies that I would love to just see.
But at least Back to the Future hasn't been
ruined
by a bunch of terrible sequels. Wait, hold on. There was the third one.
Third one's one of the greatest westerns ever written. Right up there with Cowboys versus Aliens. I'll fight you. You fucking watch Tombstone. You're like, Tombstone. How great
Tombstone is amazing, man.
Fucking 3.5 hours of fuck all happening.
Tombstone
I'll be your Huckleberry. Hey, we're gonna go hunt down all these bandits. All right, cool, an action film. Not. And you know what the worst part is, Tim? I watched that fucking Val Kilmer documentary. Holy shit, was that ponderous?
I didn't watch that.
Yeah, well, you should. If you love Tombstone, you'll love that.
He's also the best Christian
Nolan Batman.
Yeah.
Meh. Val Kilmer was in one good movie. You can decide amongst yourself which one that was.
It was
his first one, yeah. She just one and done it. Anyway, well, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoy watching the original Predator again for the 6 millionth time. I know I will. I'm gonna go watch it right now. Get that taste out of my mouth. I'm gonna go watch it with a stopwatch to figure out exactly when we first see the Predator.
Good idea.
5 minutes in. I thought about doing that today, but then I got too busy with other things and I didn't have the movie. I guess I could have logged into Vudu. But I really wanted to watch the original back to back.
Mm-hmm.
But then Prey took 3.5 years for me to watch it. It's like, oh my God, I just want to kill myself at this point. So, well, until next time. Stopping recording and ending the broadcast. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.